As a brain doctor who has spent decades studying how lifestyle choices impact the aging brain, I am constantly shocked by the hidden dangers that slip into everyday diets. Many seniors assume stroke is purely a matter of age or genetics, but the truth is far more troubling. I have treated countless patients who never smoked, who stayed physically active, who believed they were making healthy food choices, yet they still arrived in the emergency room with devastating strokes. When we looked closer, the culprit was often sitting quietly on their dinner table. Foods that are marketed as safe, convenient, or even healthy can slowly, silently, and relentlessly increase the risk of stroke. The damage builds meal by meal, year by year, until one day the brain is deprived of blood flow and function is lost in an instant. You may think stroke only comes from obvious bad habits like heavy drinking or constant fast food, but what if the real danger is hiding in the ham sandwich, the morning pastry, or the comforting bowl of soup you thought was harmless? In this video, I will reveal 7 common foods that are slowly increasing stroke risk. Foods many seniors eat every week without realizing the damage being done. More importantly, I will share the better choices that can protect your arteries, your circulation, and your independence. Stroke is not inevitable. It can be prevented, but only if you understand what is quietly attacking your body. Before we dive in, if you have not subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Part 1. Processed meats, the silent salt bomb. When I ask my older patients what they typically eat for breakfast or lunch, one of the most common answers I hear is bacon, ham, sausage, or a quick sandwich made with deli slices. These foods feel familiar, easy to prepare, and even comforting because many of us grew up eating them. But as a brain doctor, I need to warn you that processed meats are among the most dangerous foods for your brain and your arteries. They are silent salt bombs, and the damage they cause builds slowly until one day it erupts into a stroke. Processed meats are packed with sodium. Just a few slices of ham or a single sausage link can carry more sodium than your body needs in an entire meal. High sodium intake raises blood pressure. And uncontrolled high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for stroke. Every time you eat processed meat, you are quietly tightening the pressure inside your blood vessels, making them more fragile and more likely to burst or clog. What makes matters worse is that processed meats are also filled with preservatives such as nitrates and nitrites, while they are added to prevent spoilage and maintain color inside your body. These compounds can transform into nitrosamines, harmful substances that directly damage the lining of your arteries. This damage triggers inflammation and accelerates a process called atherosclerosis, where arteries stiffen and narrow. Narrow arteries cannot carry enough blood to your brain. And when a clot or rupture occurs, the result is catastrophic. I remember one of my patients, a 72-year-old man who came to the emergency department with sudden weakness in his right arm and difficulty speaking. He had never smoked. If he walked every day, and he believed he ate fairly well. But when I reviewed his diet, I discovered that he ate bacon for breakfast almost every morning and enjoyed ham sandwiches several times a week. Over the years, the salt and preservatives in those processed meats had quietly raised his blood pressure and damaged his vessels until one morning his brain could no longer compensate, He survived, but he lost the ability to write with his dominant hand and needed months of rehabilitation. The frightening part is that processed meats do not cause immediate symptoms. You can eat them for years without feeling any pain. There is no warning light, no obvious discomfort until the damage is already done. This is why they are so dangerous. Because they trick you into thinking they are harmless, but science is clear. A major study published in the journal Stroke found that people who regularly ate processed meats had a significantly higher risk of both ischemic and hemorrhagic stroke. The risk increased with frequency, meaning the more often you ate them, the more your chances of a stroke rose. So what is the solution? It is not about giving up all meats, but making smarter choices. If you enjoy sandwiches, replace deli meats with lean grilled chicken, turkey breast, or tuna. If you like the flavor of sausage, look for plant-based alternatives or make patties from beans and herbs. Use spices, garlic, and natural seasonings instead of relying on salt-laden processed foods. Remember, every small change lowers the pressure on your arteries and protects your brain. Processed meats may seem small, but they are powerful stroke triggers. And if this food that many consider a classic breakfast staple can quietly damage your brain, wait until you hear about the next one. It is something many seniors eat for comfort, believing it is light and harmless. But in reality, it delivers a hidden load of sodium that pushes blood pressure into the danger zone. Let us move on to canned soups. Part 2. Canned soups. Comfort with a hidden cost. When the weather turns cold or when energy feels low, many seniors reach for a can of soup. It feels light, simple, and comforting. A meal that can be heated in minutes without much effort. I have met countless older patients who told me proudly that they gave up fried foods, gave up heavy dinners, and replaced them with soup in the evenings to stay healthy. But as a brain doctor, I must warn you that canned soups are not always the safe choice they appear to be. Hidden inside that can is often enough sodium to raise your blood pressure sky high. And high blood pressure is the single most powerful driver of stroke. Let us look at the numbers. A single serving of canned chicken noodle soup can contain 800 milligrams of sodium or more. And many people eat the whole can, which doubles that amount. The American Heart Association recommends that older adults limit sodium intake to no more than 1,500 milligrams per day. That means with just one can of soup, you may have consumed your entire day's worth of sodium. Sometimes even more. Sodium makes the body retain fluid, increases blood volume, and puts extra strain on the delicate blood vessels inside your brain. Over time, those vessels stiffen, weaken, and become prone to rupture or blockage. I recall a 70-year-old woman who came to my clinic complaining of frequent headaches and dizziness. She was not overweight. She did not smoke. And she walked daily. She believed she was eating light because most of her dinners were canned soups. But when we measured her blood pressure, it was consistently high, often in the 160/90 range. After reviewing her diet, we realized the salt in her soups was silently driving her numbers up. When she switched to homemade vegetable soups with no added salt, her blood pressure dropped within weeks, and her stroke risk went down dramatically. Beyond sodium, canned soups often contain preservatives, flavor enhancers, and in some cases, unhealthy fats that add further stress to your vascular system. Even the so-called healthy or low-fat varieties can still pack excessive amounts of sodium. For seniors already living with conditions like diabetes, kidney disease, or heart failure, the extra salt becomes even more dangerous. raising not only stroke risk but also the risk of hospitalization for fluid overload. The truth is, soup itself is not the enemy. Freshly made soups with vegetables, beans, lean proteins, and herbs can be one of the most nourishing meals for seniors. The danger lies in the convenience of canned versions. They trick you into believing you are eating something wholesome when in reality you are flooding your system with hidden salt. Instead of reaching for cans, try preparing larger batches of fresh soup and freezing portions for later. Use herbs like basil, thyme, and parsley for flavor rather than relying on salt. If you must buy packaged soup, choose those labeled low sodium and always read the nutrition label carefully. Canned soups show us how foods that seem light and safe can hide serious dangers. And if soups can carry that much sodium, imagine what happens when you add sugary drinks to your daily routine. Many seniors still enjoy soda, sweet tea, or so-called energy drinks without realizing that they are pouring sugar straight into their bloodstream. That sugar does not just affect weight or diabetes. It directly increases stroke risk by damaging the lining of blood vessels and fueling inflammation. Let us look at the next dangerous category, sugary drinks. Part 3. Sugary drinks, sweet poison for your arteries. For many seniors, a glass of soda, a sweetened iced tea, or even fruit punch feels harmless. A small treat that brightens the day. Some even believe fruit juices from the store are healthy because they are natural. But as a brain doctor, I must tell you the truth. Sugary drinks are one of the most dangerous hidden triggers for stroke. They may taste sweet, but inside your body, they act like poison for your arteries, accelerating damage that can one day cut off blood supply to your brain in an instant. Here is what happens every time you drink a soda or a sweet tea. The sugar floods your bloodstream, causing a rapid spike in blood glucose. In younger people, the body may handle this more easily. But in seniors, where insulin sensitivity is already reduced, the sugar lingers longer and does more harm. High blood sugar directly injures the inner lining of your blood vessels, making them more prone to inflammation and plaque buildup. Over time, this damage makes it easier for clots to form and harder for arteries to remain flexible. Both conditions are perfect storms for ischemic strokes. The danger does not end there. Sugary drinks also raise triglyceride levels, a type of fat in the blood. Elevated triglycerides combine with high sugar to stiffen arteries, narrow blood flow, and strain the heart. This toxic mix increases the risk of not only strokes, but also heart attacks and vascular dementia. Studies have shown that people who consume sugary beverages daily have a significantly higher risk of stroke compared to those who rarely drink them. A report in the journal Stroke found that women who drank even one sugary drink per day had an increased risk of ischemic stroke, and the risk was even greater in older women. I remember one patient, a 69-year-old woman, who loved sweet iced tea. She drank it with almost every meal, believing it was a healthier choice than soda. When she came to the hospital with sudden weakness on one side of her body, tests revealed she had suffered an ischemic stroke. Her arteries were narrowed, and her blood sugar levels were consistently high. She was stunned to learn that her daily habit, something she thought was harmless, had been silently fueling the decline of her arteries for years. It is important to understand that natural fruit juices are not much better. A glass of orange juice from a carton often contains as much sugar as a soda. Without the fiber of whole fruit to slow absorption, the sugar hits your bloodstream all at once. Over time, that repeated sugar shock wears down your vascular system. Energy drinks. 2. are especially harmful for seniors. Combining sugar with caffeine and other stimulants that increase blood pressure and stress the cardiovascular system, the solution is simple yet powerful. Replace sugary drinks with water, sparkling water, or herbal teas. If you crave sweetness, infuse your water with slices of fresh fruit like lemon, berries, or cucumber. Your arteries need hydration, not sugar overload. Every time you choose water over soda, you are giving your brain and heart a chance to heal and strengthen. Sugary drinks are one of the clearest examples of how something pleasurable in the short term can destroy health in the long term. But they are not the only common food to watch out for. Many seniors believe baked goods like pastries and donuts are just small indulgences. In reality, they deliver a dangerous mix of sugar and unhealthy fats that accelerate stroke risk even further. If sugary drinks are sweet poison in a glass, pastries are sweet poison on a plate. Let us look at them next. Part 4. Pastries and baked goods. Sweet poison on a plate. Few things feel more comforting than a warm pastry with coffee in the morning or a slice of cake shared with friends in the afternoon. For seniors, these foods are often tied to family traditions, celebrations, and cherished memories. But as a brain doctor, I need to warn you that pastries, donuts, muffins, cookies, and cakes are not harmless treats. They are loaded with two of the most dangerous ingredients for the aging brain: refined sugar and trans fats. Together, these substances silently erode your blood vessels, fuel chronic inflammation, and dramatically increase your risk of stroke. Let us break this down. First, the sugar. A single donut can contain 20 grams of sugar or more, which quickly spikes blood glucose. And as I explained earlier with sugary drinks, these sudden spikes damage the inner lining of arteries, weaken blood vessels, and accelerate plaque buildup. Over years, repeated sugar shocks cause your arteries to stiffen and narrow. When blood can no longer flow freely to your brain, a clot forms and a stroke occurs. Seniors are particularly vulnerable because their bodies are less efficient at processing sugar, and the damage accumulates faster. Now let us look at the fats. Many pastries and baked goods are made with hydrogenated oils, which contain trans fats. Trans fats are artificial fats created to extend shelf life and improve texture. But inside your body, they wreak havoc. They raise LDL cholesterol, lower HDL cholesterol, and fuel inflammation throughout your circulatory system. The result is a dangerous combination of clogged arteries and fragile vessel walls. Studies have consistently shown that diets high in trans fats increase the risk of both ischemic and hemorrhagic stroke. In fact, the American Heart Association has declared that no amount of trans fat is safe for human health. I recall a 74-year-old man who loved donuts. He told me it was his morning ritual for years. A small joy he felt he deserved after retirement. But he also had high blood pressure and elevated cholesterol. One morning, he suffered a sudden ischemic stroke while reading the newspaper. Imaging revealed significant narrowing of his brain arteries. His daily donuts, filled with sugar and unhealthy fats, had been quietly pushing him toward that moment for years. He survived, but he lost partial use of his right hand, and his ability to write was permanently impaired. What makes pastries so dangerous is their deceptive portion size. They look small, yet they pack enormous amounts of calories, sugar, and fat. Eating them daily is like feeding your brain a steady stream of toxins. and because they are digested quickly. They leave you hungry soon after, leading you to eat more and compounding the damage. The solution is not to give up enjoyment but to choose wisely. If you crave something sweet, opt for fresh fruit with natural sugars and fiber that protect your arteries. For baked goods, try recipes that use whole grain flours, olive oil instead of hydrogenated oils, and minimal added sugar. Homemade options allow you to control what goes into your food. Remember, every pastry you skip is not just about calories. It is about protecting the fragile vessels in your brain that preserve your independence and memory. Pastries show us how pleasure and danger can be hidden in the same bite. And if baked goods filled with sugar and fat can quietly destroy your arteries, imagine what happens when you consume fried foods. Many seniors still enjoy fried chicken, French fries, or crispy snacks, unaware that these foods deliver a dangerous double dose of fat and inflammation that can devastate brain health. Let us move on to fried foods. Part 5. Fried foods, inflammation in every bite. For many seniors, fried foods bring back memories of family dinners, Sunday gatherings, or favorite restaurant meals. Crispy fried chicken, golden French fries, onion rings, or even fried fish can feel like comfort on a plate. But as a brain doctor, I must tell you that every bite of fried food is fueling inflammation that slowly increases your risk of stroke. The danger lies not only in the high fat content, but also in the chemical transformation that happens when oils are heated to high temperatures. When foods are deep fried, they absorb large amounts of oil. Most restaurants and packaged fried foods use oils that are cheap, heavily processed, and often reused multiple times. This process generates compounds called advanced glycation end products and free radicals inside your body. These substances cause oxidative stress and inflammation, weakening the delicate lining of your blood vessels. The end result is arterial stiffness, higher blood pressure, and a greater likelihood of blood clots forming over time. The constant burden of fried foods can set the stage for ischemic strokes by blocking blood flow, or hemorrhagic strokes by weakening the vessel walls until they rupture. The fats themselves are another problem. Fried foods are often high in trans fats and saturated fats, which raise LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol that clogs arteries. At the same time, they lower HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol that normally helps protect you. For seniors who already have narrowed arteries or a history of high cholesterol, fried foods act like fuel on the fire. Research has shown that people who consume fried foods more than 4 times a week have a much higher risk of stroke and heart disease than those who rarely eat them. I remember a 72-year-old man who loved fried fish. He believed it was a healthy option because it was fish, not red meat. But he ate it several times a week, always breaded and fried. He came to the hospital one evening with sudden vision loss and slurred speech. Tests revealed he had suffered a stroke caused by a clot in his brain. His cholesterol was high, and his arteries showed significant plaque buildup. He was devastated to learn that his healthy fish dinners were part of the problem. Another hidden danger of fried foods is the salt. Fried chicken, fries, or snack foods like potato chips are usually loaded with sodium. This not only raises blood pressure but also contributes to fluid retention, straining the heart and brain even more. The combination of high fat, salt, and inflammatory compounds makes fried foods one of the most dangerous categories for seniors hoping to protect their brain health. The good news is that you do not need to give up flavor. Baking, grilling, or air frying foods with olive oil or avocado oil can provide the crispy texture you crave without drowning your arteries in unhealthy fats. Seasoning with herbs, garlic, lemon, or spices can replace the need for excessive salt. Simple swaps like oven-roasted potatoes instead of French fries or grilled chicken instead of fried can dramatically lower your stroke risk. Fried foods may be beloved comfort meals, but they carry a hidden price that no senior can afford. And if fried foods inflame your arteries, imagine what happens when you add processed cheeses into your diet. These everyday dairy products, often eaten in sandwiches or snacks, may seem harmless, but can silently worsen stroke risk through hidden salt and fat. Let us examine processed cheeses next. Part 6. Processed cheeses, hidden salt and fat traps. Cheese is often seen as a comfort food, a source of protein and calcium, and even a sign of indulgence in later years. Seniors may enjoy a slice of cheese on a sandwich, melted cheese in casseroles, or packaged cheese snacks that promise convenience. But what many do not realize is that processed cheeses, the kind sold in blocks, slices, or spreads, are some of the most dangerous foods for stroke risk. Unlike natural cheeses, processed varieties are filled with hidden salt, unhealthy fats, and additives that slowly damage the cardiovascular and nervous systems. Let us begin with the salt. Processed cheeses are packed with sodium, often more than 300 milligrams per slice. For seniors whose arteries are already less flexible, this constant overload of salt raises blood pressure to dangerous levels. Hypertension is the single most important risk factor for both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. Every time blood pressure spikes, it stresses the delicate vessels in the brain, making them more prone to rupture or blockage. Over the years, this repeated stress adds up, creating the perfect conditions for a sudden, devastating event. Now, consider the fats. Processed cheeses are often made with a mix of milk solids, vegetable oils, and stabilizers rather than pure milk. These combinations are high in saturated fats that increase LDL cholesterol. Elevated LDL contributes to plaque buildup inside arteries, narrowing the pathways that deliver oxygen and nutrients to the brain. Once these plaques harden and rupture, clots form and blood flow is cut off. That is when an ischemic stroke strikes. Seniors who believe they are only having a harmless snack may be unknowingly pushing themselves closer to this fate with every bite. The additives are another silent danger. Preservatives, emulsifiers, and artificial colors found in processed cheese have been linked to inflammation and oxidative stress. Inflammation is the underlying mechanism that damages the endothelium, the thin lining inside blood vessels. Once this lining is compromised, the risk of clot formation skyrockets. For the aging brain, already vulnerable to reduced circulation, this is a threat that cannot be ignored. I recall an elderly woman who came to my clinic with recurring headaches and dizziness. She had no history of smoking and rarely ate fried foods. But when I asked her about her diet, she proudly told me she loved light cheese slices because they were quick, affordable, and easy to use. She ate them daily on toast and in sandwiches. When we checked her blood pressure, it was dangerously high, and her cholesterol levels were elevated. After removing processed cheese from her diet and replacing it with healthier options, her numbers improved within months, lowering her risk of stroke significantly. The solution is not to eliminate cheese entirely, but to choose wisely. Natural cheeses such as fresh mozzarella, ricotta, or goat cheese contain less sodium and fewer additives. Even then, they should be consumed in moderation, paired with vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats to support circulation. Avoiding prepackaged cheese spreads, processed slices, and shelf-stable cheese products is one of the simplest and most effective steps seniors can take to protect brain health. Processed cheeses may look harmless, but inside they are salt and fat traps waiting to tighten their grip on your arteries. And if processed cheese can silently raise stroke risk, imagine what happens with canned soups. Another common staple in many senior households that hide astonishing amounts of sodium. Let us explore that next. Part 7. Canned soups, the hidden sodium storm. For many seniors, canned soups are a symbol of convenience and comfort. On a cold evening, opening a can of chicken noodle soup or vegetable broth feels like an easy way to enjoy a warm, filling meal without much effort. Some even believe soups are a healthier choice compared to fried foods or desserts. But as a brain doctor, I must warn you that canned soups are one of the most overlooked contributors to stroke risk in the elderly. Hidden beneath their comforting flavors is a storm of sodium that silently raises blood pressure, damages arteries, and increases the likelihood of a life-changing stroke. The problem begins with salt. A single serving of canned soup can contain over 800 milligrams of sodium, and most people consume more than one serving at a time. That means a single meal could provide nearly the entire daily sodium limit recommended for seniors. High sodium intake causes water retention, increasing the volume of blood flowing through arteries. This extra pressure forces the heart to work harder and places constant strain on delicate vessel walls. Over time, this leads to hypertension, the leading risk factor for both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. In seniors, whose blood vessels are already less elastic, this strain can be catastrophic. Canned soups also contain preservatives and flavor enhancers, such as monosodium glutamate. These additives not only boost sodium content, but also trigger inflammation in sensitive individuals. Inflammation weakens the endothelium, the thin lining of blood vessels, leaving them vulnerable to plaque buildup, rupture, or clot formation. Once a clot blocks blood flow to the brain, an ischemic stroke occurs. If a weakened artery bursts from the pressure, the result is a hemorrhagic stroke. In both cases, the consequences are devastating: paralysis, loss of speech, memory problems, or death. I recall treating a 75-year-old man who had been relatively healthy most of his life. He was not overweight. He did not smoke, and he rarely ate fast food, but he lived alone and relied heavily on canned soups for his meals, sometimes eating them twice a day. One morning, he collapsed in his kitchen and was rushed to the hospital with a severe hemorrhagic stroke. His blood pressure had been dangerously high for years, fueled quietly by his daily sodium overload. By the time we intervened, the damage to his brain was irreversible, and he never regained full independence. The deceptive part about canned soups is that they do not taste overwhelmingly salty. Manufacturers often add sugar and flavor enhancers to mask the high sodium content, making it easy for seniors to consume large amounts without realizing the harm being done. Even low-sodium versions can still carry significant amounts of salt, enough to push blood pressure higher when eaten regularly. The solution lies in choosing fresh alternatives. Homemade soups made from fresh vegetables, beans, and lean proteins can provide warmth, comfort, and nutrition without the sodium overload. Using herbs, garlic, onions, and spices for flavoring creates delicious meals that support rather than sabotage your health. For those who prefer the convenience of packaged foods, frozen soups with no added salt are often safer options. Reading labels carefully and choosing products with less than 150 milligrams of sodium per serving can make a life-saving difference. Canned soups may seem harmless, but inside they are a hidden sodium storm that can quietly push seniors toward hypertension and stroke. The truth is, every food choice either protects or endangers your brain. And now that we have uncovered 7 everyday foods that increase stroke risk, it is time to reflect on what they mean for your future health and independence. Let us conclude with a final message of hope and action. Doctor's final words. After decades of treating patients whose lives were suddenly changed by stroke, I have learned a powerful truth. Stroke does not strike out of nowhere. It builds silently, meal by meal, choice by choice, year after year, until one day the brain can no longer endure the pressure. The 7 foods we have discussed today may look harmless, even comforting, but in reality, they are slowly increasing stroke risk. Processed meats, pastries loaded with sugar, salty pickles, sweetened beverages, fried foods, processed cheeses, and canned soups all share the same dangerous qualities. They inflame blood vessels, overload your body with salt and unhealthy fats, and rob your brain of the protection it desperately needs. For seniors who already face reduced resilience in their arteries and slower recovery times, these foods can mean the difference between independence and disability. But here is the good news. Stroke is not inevitable. Your body remembers how to heal by making simple swaps, choosing fresh vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and natural flavorings. You can protect your circulation and strengthen your brain. Replacing fried chicken with grilled salmon, swapping canned soup for homemade broth, or trading soda for water may feel small, but each choice is a message to your body. I still care. I still choose health. I still want to live fully. These small, daily decisions add up to powerful protection, giving you not only more years, but better years filled with clarity, strength, and independence. Now, I would love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you have learned today that you plan to apply in your own life. Let us support each other on this journey toward protecting our brains and our futures. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1. If not, comment 0. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue building a healthier tomorrow together. Your best years are not behind you. They are still ahead, if you choose them.